Hey folks, MasakoX here. You're doing a new story, Masako? You've not done one of these in a while. You see, I got the idea from one of our recent What If Roundtable live streams, the place where you can join myself, Haverock, and on occasion Sophie B, and discuss new Dragon Ball What If ideas in real time and help support the channel as well, which you can also do by liking this video and subscribing for more content like this. Those ideas, they can become videos. Many of them have, much like how Bryant Grier, or however you pronounce it, asked about Broly becoming a GOD. Cheers, Bryant! Well, I'd love to do this idea, but we would need to twist it up a little bit more to make it a little more compelling, and also appease the algorithm because you can't use certain words. Today's video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and MasakoX. With MasakoX, you will receive 20 traditional and artisan Japanese delights, including Japanese teas and one wonderfully crafted example of tableware with your box every month. MasakoX helps local Japanese snack makers continue to share their traditions that have been passed down for over a century. So not only is it for a good cause, but it's also in good taste. Both Philly and I adore the matcha cream daifuku. Philly especially. She loves mochi. As for Tokyo Treat, you'll get to try up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks like banana caramel flavored Kit Kats. Not to mention these Tokyo Treat exclusive snacks like the Tokyo Red Bean Loaf and Pine Ame Candy, which are only available in this month's limited edition Sakura themed box. You can't get them anywhere else, so you don't want to miss out on these. This month's themes for Tokyo Treat and MasakoX are Sakura Picnic and Matcha and Mochi. Both boxes are comprised with a trifecta of tastiness, and also comes with an information snack guide containing information about these tastes, snack ingredients, allergen information, and much more about Japanese history and culture. Out of both boxes, the one snack that took me by surprise was the cream stew flavored Pringles. Considering I'd eaten Pringles all my life, this completely blew me away with how different it was. You can go to my second channel Up on the Lookout to see more from these boxes, or you can get $5 off your first MasakoX or Tokyo Treat box order by using the code MasakoX at checkout, or by using the links in the description before April 30. I hope you give this a look, and thanks once again to Tokyo Treat and MasakoX for sponsoring this video. Now, instead of just simply talking about Broly becoming a destroyer, I wanted to take it in a direction where the arrival or discovery of Broly would be something of interest to the angel and his cat, or maybe just one of them. It would be a little bit unorthodox, but based on the history of Dragon Ball, I think we can come up with something compelling. And before you folks say anything, I have not watched Carthu's take on this premise whilst researching this video, so as to not influence my storytelling. So with that, let's set the scene. Paragus was nervous. His son had been born, and yet the doctors and carers were wary of this child. Why was that exactly? He didn't have any abnormalities, nor did he seem to have any cognitive dissonance. To the layman Saiyan, Broly was a perfectly average infant. But still, there was a level of nervous tension amidst the infirmary. Paragus had inquired as to the concern and careful instruction, but all the doctors would tell him was that Broly was of interest to them, to their studies, and that if not properly processed and investigated, it might stoke the ire of King Vegeta. I understand your wish to prepare your boy for the nursing capsule process of development, but we need more time to ascertain his potential. As you know, the king has certain limitations for those born outside of their caste. The last thing I would wish to happen to your son is for him to be liquidated. The doctor nodded meekly. Paragus looked to the chamber where his son was being poked and prodded, completely unaware as to the tests that were being done on him. He wasn't some kind of animal or alien. He was a Saiyan child. Disgraceful, muttered Paragus. In that time, Paragus managed to pull some strings with his connections amongst the Saiyan ranks to expedite the test run on his son, and a nursing capsule was eventually sourced, without the king finding out. It took many favors being called in for this to happen, but the deed was done. Broly had been spared ridicule and an indignant start to his life. He detested the manner in which his son was being paraded around by the scientists. It was a miracle, though, they hadn't cut him open. Then again, based on their findings, it might have been the last thing they ever did. According to one of his friends, in a secret report, Broly's S-cell readings were incredibly high, Higher than, in fact, Prince Vegeta, who was also in a capsule. That's why they were being careful. The only way for the king to not know would be to fudge the numbers perhaps, place Broly's capsule far away from the young prince. The king was very proud of his son, and often ignored other Saiyan infants on his visits. This was Paragus' only option, so as his boy could at least grow enough to develop properly. For a while, all seemed well. But then a flunky had to just go ahead and slip up, as is the way. As you would know from the original story, King Vegeta wasn't best pleased to find out that another child from another class was somewhere where they shouldn't be, and given special treatment, and potentially more potent than his own son, the Crown Prince. Given the status of King Vegeta amongst the Saiyans, it would be foolish to allow this imp to run free, and so he called upon Paragus, when he found out the sire, to speak with him. No matter how many friends you have in high places, if you get rumbled, you're on your own. And so, Paragus got summoned to the monarch's throne room and asked more about his progeny, and why he hadn't gone through the proper channels, like he's supposed to. Paragus immediately retorted, knowing exactly what the proper channels were, and they weren't good for the boy. But yes, Broly got sent off-world, and without Paragus' knowledge. The king didn't really care about Paragus' thoughts, he just wanted to make him out to be stupid. The commander was horrified. It was still too early for Broly to be removed from the capsule. He might end up with developmental issues. It was too difficult to tell, since the lad wasn't around to check. But Paragus had no clue where to start looking. The king didn't bother chasing after him though, when he found out some clues. It was a fruitless task. And even if he spent his days hopelessly searching for his kid, he'd at least be out of their hair. And as you know, Saiyans have quite a lot of hair. Well, okay Masako, how is this going to affect Broly himself? Would he end up on Vampa? Well, yes. And yes, Paragus would eventually find him as per the original story from the Broly movie. However, things would start to take a different shape not long after planet Vegeta was destroyed by Frieza. With Beerus going for his nap and disliking Saiyans with a passion, he tasked Frieza, the strongest mortal at the time, with dealing with the problem all by Beerus' directives and musings concerning the Super Saiyan God, as per his talkings with the Oracle Fish and his own thoughts. Even though this was sort of counterintuitive, the cat trusted his fish that fate would find a way, and thusly chose to proceed with his plan, and his sleep schedule. A few years have passed since Broly and Paragus found themselves on Vampa. The situation wasn't the most ideal, and Paragus had no other sense of company other than his own son. However, they were free from King Vegeta and Frieza's influence, which was always a plus, despite the planet you were currently on being mostly comprised of yellow springs, dirt bowls, and bugs. Oh no, yeah, the occasional bah! The most curious thing starts on one of Whis' little jaunts. As you could probably imagine, with Beerus being capable of falling asleep for considerable amounts of time, mostly millennia, this would result with Whis not having much to do with himself. And that is until one day, when he was casually scanning the cosmos for potential planets for Beerus to destroy if he ever woke up. Out of boredom, Whis chose to expand the field of his scope for Universe 7, and then spotted the likes of Vampa. It intrigued him, so he chose to pay it a visit so as to pass the time. He didn't have anything else to do. After all, for his light-speed taxi service, it would only take him a couple of hours or so to get there and back. Beerus wouldn't even know that he had gone. When Whis got to Vampa, he could sense that life forms here were relatively basic. But as he approached the planet's surface and looked around a little closer, he could sense two beings that definitely did not belong on this world. They didn't match the signatures of other life forms whatsoever. In fact, he thought that these beings should have been wiped out long ago. Saiyans. This is definitely worth a closer look. With Whis' power set being essentially infinite, as the official writers like it, he cloaked his appearance and approached the two Saiyans, a father and his son. He got close to the father, Paragus, and used his staff to read his mind. Oh my. Whis found this entire experience rather fascinating. To see King Vegeta in full swing, without their influence curtailing his affections and decisions, My, he was such a bore, Whis thought. Also stupid. To have someone like this Broly be sent away was completely and utterly preposterous. Then there was the whole thing about the boy's power. That took Whis' interest the most. This boy's power was capable of outclassing the king's own boy? Already? Whew. Perhaps it had something to do with the Super Saiyan God vision that the Oracle Fish had talked about. What a happy stroke of luck, Whis thought. This was a perfect opportunity. He unmasked himself and formally introduced himself to Paragus. Good day, Saiyan. I have come seeking your audience. Paragus recognized the angel. Sort of. He had an idea that this was somebody related to Beerus. The clothes and the skin were tantamount to one of those angel things. But why was he here? You! What are you doing here? Oh, what does Beerus want? Whis was puzzled. Oh, Lord Beerus didn't send me here. I came of my own volition. That was odd, Paragus thought. An angel doing things on their own? That was not what was supposed to happen. Whis did not choose to elaborate further, and instead inquired about Broly. How could this angel know about his own boy? It was never brought up when Beerus visited before on planet Vegeta. Whis did explain, though, that they know a lot about Saiyans and informed him about the destruction of planet Vegeta because he thought it was the right thing to do, obviously. Broly's father had mixed emotions about that. Granted, he was happy to know that the king paid the ultimate price for choosing to snub him and his boy, but also felt somber at the loss of his own homeworld, naturally. What do you want from me? I wish to examine your son. He has piqued my interest. Before Paragus could give his blessing, though, Whis was already walking over to the spot where Broly was currently resting and greeted him. Whis then proposed to spar with the boy. As you would know, Whis wouldn't have to lift a finger in anger, and so the cosmos would be happy with that. Broly fought, and his power slowly rose over time. Paragus was getting concerned. Broly's temper was known to be quite furious, and if he were to go above a certain point, Paragus wasn't sure whether he'd be able to subdue him. But Whis didn't seem at all fazed. In fact, he was enjoying this little moment. Broly frantically fighting and flailing his arms and doing nothing to him. But the increase in performance over time was noted. Whis then put Broly to sleep with a tap of his staff, and the rage that had filled the boy's eyes vanished instantly, and he was now sent to the land of Nod. Whis turned to Paragus and thanked him for his time. I'll be keeping my eye on him. I like the cut of his jib. You shall be seeing me again as well, Saiyan. Paragus then asked if there was anything that Whis wanted in exchange for this visitation. The angel waved his hand and asked for only one thing in return. Treat the boy well and train him hard. His mind is extremely clouded, and any negative stimuli from you or the environs could lead to something truly horrifying manifesting itself. No pressure. And with that, Whis vanished in a wisp of light, leaving Paragus with a purpose. He no longer was living here on Vampa with his boy, aimlessly attempting to survive. Now, he had been granted a task from those above, to prepare Broly for potentially great things. After all, the angels were capable of anything. Anything was possible. Perhaps this might lead to them receiving copious bounties for their hard work. His hard work. The years to come would be hard, but at least now Paragus had a plan. As those years marched on, Whis indeed kept a watchful eye on that world, yet he chose to watch mostly from afar, with the occasional visit to Vampa hidden in the shadows, so as to not further influence mortal affairs, and also see what Paragus would do. And sure enough, there was a cause for concern arising for the angel that was becoming more and more obvious over time. Yes, Broly had a temper, and his power was increasing very well, but Whis did not like the way that the kid was being controlled. Paragus had come up with an idea of the electric collar, to subdue Broly should he lose total faculties. Paragus had managed to increase his own power level more than the original as a byproduct from all of this more active training, but not nearly at the same clip as Broly. As Broly grew up more and more, Whis could sense that this was not going the way he wanted. What he hoped for was a Super Saiyan God, not a Super Saiyan animal, being controlled with deterrence and not being allowed to develop themselves properly. What was even the point of an angry power if it was being nurtured properly? He had seen enough. Paragus had done the basics, but it failed when it came to the nuances of raising a child for great things. And Whis noted, after having read Paragus' own thoughts, the fact that the Saiyans were treating Broly as an animal, and now Paragus was doing the same in a different justification. Oh, the irony. One day, when Broly was 10, Whis paid a visit, the first time he had properly shown his face to them since he first charged Paragus with the task of preparing Broly for his potential mission in life. Whilst Broly here was stronger than in the original state of events, this was not enough to appease Whis. He played it cool though, and asked Paragus how training was going, acting ignorant, to which the commander said, "Well, I can assure you that I'm able to still keep Broly in check." "In check, you say? And how do you do that? Your power is woefully below his." Paragus twitched with annoyance, but remained stoic. He pulled out a device, to which Broly flinched slightly, and we saw that. "Your boy seems awfully nervous of that thing. What does it do?" Whis playing dumb again. "Should Broly become unwieldy, I can use this to, stop him in his tracks." Whis looked seriously at him. He knew exactly what it did, having seen it for himself, but chose not to say that he knew. "I see. Well, I wish to spar with your boy once more. Would that be acceptable? And do not use that device. I can take whatever your boy can give." Whis and Broly sparred once more. Broly was keen to test his might again on this angel, having heard stories of him and Beerus from his father, and how much he showed up King Vegeta. Anyone who made the king out to be a fool always elicited a laugh from them both. Sure enough, Broly had improved. A lot. Whis was happy to fight this one. Still nothing compared to him, but the curve of improvement was very pleasing. If he kept it up at this rate, he might end up being stronger than Frieza. But then something happened which put that beyond doubt. Broly was starting to tire, and starting to lose his cool. Paragus was about to press the button, but Whis stretched a hand out to stop him from doing so. Something in Broly's eyes flickered yellow. A new sense of urgency overcame him. The power skyrocketed. But Whis was overjoyed. "Ooh, I knew it! There was something in there after all." The fight grew more entertaining for Whis, but then he tested Paragus. He pretended to stumble and look hurt to see what Paragus' reaction would be. Whis was perfectly fine, but he was proven right. Paragus instantly pressed the button, and Broly collapsed in agony at the shock of the collar. Twitching, the boy was convulsing as the angel got up and calmly pressed his hand on Broly's brow, and the boy fell asleep. Any signs of pain melting away. The boy was at peace. Whis turned to Paragus and grabbed the remote from his hand and smashed it. What are you doing? Without that control, Broly will become unstoppable! A wild animal!" "And that is how you view your child? As some beast? I may not know much when it comes to raising mortal children, but even I know that a certain amount of compassion goes a long way. I have been watching you, Saiyan, and at first I was satisfied. But this," he looked at the crumpled remains of the collar, "is disappointing in the extreme. I was going to grant you freedom from this world, a new home. But I feel that I must take matters now into my own hands." Whis rose Broly from the ground and hovered him over to the crook of his arm, Whis now carrying the sleeping child. "What is this?" "I am taking your son. You stay here. If the Super Saiyan God is to truly be awoken, then these environs will simply not do. Nor will the tutelage." Paragus was losing his cool and tried to attack Whis out of desperation, to which the angel instantly rebuked it. "Pitiful. You had your chance, Saiyan. You blew it." He tapped Paragus' head, and he was knocked out. When Paragus awoke, he could not remember Broly, and he could not remember he even had a son. All he knew is that he was here, on Vampa, for no reason. Alone. When Broly awoke, he found himself on a different world, with a pink sky, blue-green grass, and running water. Actual water. Immediately, the boy ran over to the stream and gulped tons of the stuff, before turning around and spotting the angel.
"Hey, what is this place?"
Broly spluttered after swallowing yet more water. "This place? It's your new home. At least for now. I'm afraid things soured at your previous abode.
Soured? Wait, where's my father?
That is the sour part. Your father was disappointed at your performance and promptly disowned you. As you could tell, Whis was straight up lying, for his own benefit. Broly wanted to hope he was lying, but angels seemed to give off such a convincing aura that to the Saiyan, what Whis was saying was true. The boy laid down and cried at having been abandoned, but he didn't lose control for some reason. He noted that.
Huh? What?
He then touched his neck. The collar was gone. We showed him the remains of the collar and dropped them to the ground. This will no longer be bothering you. From now on, I will be here to guide you. You are no longer a caged animal, my child. Broly, was it? Broly nodded. Well, Broly, I think we can make this work. After all, you are going to have to work very hard to impress Lord Beerus.
Lord Beerus?
Repeated Broly. He then nodded.
Okay, I'll do my best.
The kid then caught himself by surprise. That response? That was so sudden. How could he dismiss his father's abandonment like that? He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but maybe it was the environment giving him some sense of comfort. Maybe this angel's niceness and destruction of that horrible collar gave him hope that things would be okay, that he would be able to grow up relatively normally, with stability. Whatever the reason, this was definitely better than Vampa. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you like the story of Broly becoming something more, check out this story here with the OG Broly turned good. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!